Hey everyone, it's Nikolai. So today we are going to talk about the Live Paint tool. The Live Paint tool can be a little bit weird, a little bit funky, but once you get your brain wrapped around it, it's a great way to add color to groups of objects that are not necessarily made up of closed shapes. And if you don't know what that means, stick around. Hopefully you will in a very short time. Let's get going. All right, as you can see, I've got a couple of items here already drawn out. I've made one set of shapes that are just very simple. I have a path that is a black stroke with a white fill, and a star shape, and a rectangle shape, and a circle shape. To start off, I'm going to go ahead and select all three of these shapes, and these could be any sorts of shape you want. Again, these are closed shapes made with the shape tool here. And to get to the Live Paint tool, I can either go over here to the Shape Builder tool and then go down to the Live Paint bucket, or I can just hit K on the keyboard. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the Live Paint bucket tool. You can see it right there, and click on that. And now, as I hover over this, all those paths turn to red, and there's very, very small type that says click to make a Live Paint group. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll just click it once. And now this is what is called a Live Paint group. And you could tell that because when I mouse over the sections, you'll see that the individual sections are now highlighted. And what that means is that I can now color those sections separately with this Live Paint bucket. Now, getting color with the Live Paint bucket is pretty easy. You can either go over to your swatches panel and click on a swatch to create a fill. And I'm going to get rid of this black stroke. Go back to my fill. And you'll notice if I do that, on the screen, where the Live Paint bucket is, there's these little three boxes of color. And those are actually analogous to the colors that are in my swatches panel. Right now you probably can't see this, but there's a dark blue, a pink, and a red. And over here in my swatches panel, the selected swatch is the pink one, and there next to it is a dark blue, and then next to that on the other side is red. So it's the same. And what's cool about this is that if we use the arrow keys left and right on the keyboard, it toggles through the color swatches in our swatch panel. So we can switch through, I think you can go up or down. Yep, you can go up or down. And you can go left and right. The up and down doesn't work exactly one-to-one, so left and right seems to work better. All right, so let's start coloring. Basically, all I'm going to do is highlight a section and click on it, and then I will switch to another color. Again, in this case, I'll go ahead and use the arrow keys to switch to a bright blue color, and then I will switch back over here, again using the arrow keys, and switch to a red color, fill that in. And then grab a green, and let's grab another sort of gold color here. All right, so now this is a Live Paint group, and we have basically created these sort of separated objects. And you know something is a Live Paint group also by the bounding box. The bounding box will have these little sort of crisscrosses in the corner points of the bounding box. That tells you if something is a Live Paint group or not. What's really neat about this is that if I deselect it, I can click on individual portions of this with the Direct Select tool, the white arrow, and move it around, and you can see that it still keeps the color relationships the same, even though the way the shapes are interacting with each other changes. So it's pretty neat. This is very similar to the Shape Builder tool, and that's why they kind of hang out together. So the other thing that we have over here is I'm noticing that these still have that black stroke. So I want to get rid of that. And to do that, I'm going to go over to my Live Paint bucket tool. And this time I'm going to click and hold on that. And I'm going to go down to the Live Paint selection tool. And that allows me to basically grab a whole group of Live Paint objects. You see they're all shaded, and I can go over to my swatch panel here and select the swatch, select the stroke, and then click on the slash or none. And that should have gotten rid of the stroke on all of these objects, and there it did. Okay, so that's a basic idea of how the Live Paint tool works. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at these lines here. Now, If we take, if I select these with my direct select tool, and let's go ahead and zoom in a bit on these, you can see that this is made up of a bunch of just separate lines. There are no closed shapes here. There are some areas that have little gaps where the shapes are not very close to each other. And let's go ahead and see about making this a live paint object. So again, I'll go over here. I'm just going to hit K on the keyboard this time to get my live paint tool. And it says I can click to make a live paint group. All right, let's do that. So I click here. And as I go mouse over, you can see that some of these shapes, the ones that are fully closed off, they will highlight, but other shapes that I want to perhaps color are not highlighting. I'm going to go to Object and down to Live Paint, if I can find it right here, and to Gap Options. Gap Options. And here you can see that it says paint stops at small gaps. I've got preview checked. I'm going to go ahead and set this to large gaps. And if you look closely, if you have preview selected, again, this is a live paint group that I have created but not yet colored in. I've got the preview checked here, and you can see that it is actually filling in some of these little spots here, which previously had gaps in them. So this is what I like. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now when I go over here, let's go ahead and choose some colors. I fill this in, and it recognizes that as a closed shape, even though it's not actually a closed shape. So this is, I find, pretty useful part of Live Paint is the ability to have groups that aren't even necessarily connected, lines that aren't connected, and it allows you to treat them as an object. And look, you can even fill with gradients, which is pretty neat. So I'm going to fill one more color here. So one last thing we're going to talk about today is a little bit more of a practical way to use this. So for that, I'm going to go down to another artboard, and I've got this little guy I've traced here. And you can see that this drawing, again, is made up of a bunch of individual lines that are created using both the pen tool and also the line segment tool, both up here on the left. Before I make this into a live paint group, what I'm going to do is make a copy of this and put it on another layer. And that's so that we can use these outlines separately once we've made our live paint group. So I'm going to hit Command C, and I'm going to hit, let's see, Command F to paste in front. Command F, paste in front. I'm going to go down here and create a new layer by clicking on the little plus icon on my layers panel. And then I'm going to grab the selected artwork right here to the right side in the layers panel and click on that little blue square, hold my mouse key down and drag it up. So I've moved this set of outlines to a layer on top. Okay, and let's hide that so I don't touch it or accidentally select it, and then go back down to my first layer. And just to be sure, I'll lock this one as well. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and make a live paint group out of this. So I'm going to go drag a marquee out along this whole group. And again, looking at this, you can see that these lines are not all super neat. They're not all connecting. They're sort of just drawn over the top of each other. And I'm going to go ahead now and grab my live paint bucket tool, hit K on the keyboard, and click to make a live paint group. All right, so now I should be able to see all these different areas that are all working, and I could just kind of quickly drag my live paint bucket tool over the top to see what it's going to do. Okay, so I've went ahead and created some colors here. So I'm going to go ahead and use this green color and start filling in first, and use this medium lighter green color I have, and just click basically where I want that color to show up. And then I'll grab this slightly darker one and click in the shaded areas. And then grab this yellow, and the yellow goes here. Actually, the yellow, I want this to be yellow as well. I want that to be dark yellow. And we'll go back to the lighter yellow. And then I think down here, we're going to use the shadow darker yellow color. And finally, we'll add some brown for his shell. And some red for his eye. This gets a little bit tricky because I've got some highlights drawn in there. And I want to get rid of some of these extra lines. Oh, I haven't filled in this part yet. Get that arm going. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to zoom in. And here's something that I didn't mention before, which is that you can actually also paint strokes and fills with live paint. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and select the stroke here in the panel. And I want the stroke on this highlight to be 0. So I want to go ahead and get my live paint bucket. I deselected everything. And if you get in there really close with the, you'll see this little paintbrush. And that says that I'm about to paint, something with the stroke. So I'm going to select the stroke, and I'm going to go ahead and select none on the stroke, and then hover over just that stroke right there, paint it with none, paint this stroke, make sure to get just the stroke, paint it with none, and then I also want to get this stroke right here and paint that with none. So it creates that highlight effect that I'm looking for. And I'll do the same thing here. Again, just painting the stroke only with none, so it ends up looking more like a highlight. Black fill, no stroke. That's a little better. I think I'm missing an oval down here for his eye. I'll have to draw that in later. But that's starting to look good. Yeah, so again, I want to also, these areas where I have darker shadow colors, I want to get rid of those black lines that are separating those areas. I drew those just to make sure that there was a shape. And so while I've got live paint bucket selected, I'm going to go ahead and select the stroke and select none. And just make sure I get that stroke right there selected with the little brush and get rid of that. So I'm going to just make sure I get the little paintbrush. Again, just selecting that path, getting rid of that. And you can see that I've got some areas here where there's gaps. Again, I might want to go in, if I had done it this way, I might want to go in and close up those gaps a little bit. But right now I'm not going to bother doing that. I'll go ahead and do this one. That one, and I think that's it. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so I could get rid of the stroke on this whole thing. Okay, I've selected the whole shape. You can see it's got a question mark for the fill and black for the stroke. So I just got rid of all the strokes here. And now I'm going to go ahead and go back to my layer and turn on that original layer. And here I can go through and say, for example, delete some of these strokes that I don't want. Again, I'll lock the bottom layer and just work on the top layer and delete some of these extra strokes that I didn't like. So finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these strokes again. I'm just working on the top layer, the bottom layer is locked, and I'm going to change the width profile of the stroke by clicking into the stroke panel. And again, if you click into the stroke panel and you don't see all of these options, you need to go ahead and click on the little sandwich menu and make sure you click on show options. And let's pull this out here so we can see it. I'm going to change the weight to 3-point, and then I think I have to grab these kind of individually, and I can go through and grab these different stroke options, because when I have these all selected, it doesn't seem to want to. Oh, there we go. So I'm grabbing this one that gets thin right at the ends and stays thick throughout the middle to give it that sort of nice cartoon quality look. All right, I hope that has been useful, and that's it for this time. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and in the comments let me know if you want to see any other tools. I'm always interested to see what you all want to know, so look forward to doing the next one, and we'll see you next time.